Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're catching us on one of our morning channels, thank you so much for joining us today. You can catch us here same time, same place every week. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, and every week we do our best to bring you fantastic guests that meet the mission of our show, which is to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, and build wealth. And my team and I are passionate about that. And today, one of our guests that we have chiming in today straight out of New York City is Andrew Feinberg. He's a columnist with Kiplinger's. He is a hedge fund manager with CJA Partners, and he is no stranger to the show Tampa Home Talk. Welcome back to our show, Andy.
Thanks, Katrina. It's great to be with you.
So you and I were talking a little before the show, and we thought we would put together a fantastic agenda and a little bit of some things that you're seeing, which are just good things to build and add on for our show mission. Now, it's also, to build that wealth segment, but along the way, you're going to catch up with scammers. You're going to see, you're going to run into some of these people. So the topic for today's show is how to avoid these scams and these rip-off investment scams and the people that are just, have bad intentions. So, as a hedge fund manager, Andy, I bet you see a lot of different things. And what are some of the things that you see in some of the common scams, and how can we help the person listening avoid getting ripped off?
Well, since I am a hedge fund manager, let me start with hedge funds, even though a lot of people just never encounter them.
And talk about what a hedge fund is real quick before you dive in.
A hedge fund is a private partnership, and it basically, let's just take mine, it invests in stocks like a mutual fund, except there is a general partner, me, and then there are limited partners who are the investors. It can be very much like a mutual fund, but legally it's different.
So am I correct to say it's a pool of money? So you have basically different people that invest their money, and essentially they're all kind of pulling it together to buy different investments?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the same as a mutual fund, the investments. Now there are some mutual funds that operate like hedge funds, but in the old days there were things hedge funds could do that mutual funds just weren't allowed to do. And but there's a lot of people are hedge funds are known as being more secretive, or some of them are, and so people are leery. And I just want to go back to the Madoff scandal for just a second, and what...
Yes, please talk about that. Like, for the person listening, they might not know what that was, so just touch on it and then dive in if you don't mind.
It's the biggest investment fraud in history, and Bernie Madoff, who was in the circles who knew, I knew who he was. I knew his daughter-in-law. Her kids went to the same school, and he's very respected. And I knew him as someone who was an executive at NASDAQ and had his own market-making operation.
So you think of these person as respected, high-level people,
right? And in fact, he was famous for turning away investors, and one element of his scam was to say, "Oh no, I don't want your money. No, I can't manage any more money," and that would just make people more desperate.
Want it more, yeah.
It's just a wonderful sales technique is to say, "No, I don't want you," and and eventually, of course, you relent and let them in. And he had these phony records, so he ended up stealing, many billions of dollars, and a lot of it's been given back. They recovered it from the investors who made money, but everything was phony. He didn't invest any of the money, and among the ways you could have known that something was wrong is his returns were very good, but they were also crazily consistent. That he would be up 1% a month, like every month for 20 years. And no one can do that. It is impossible. And
which that makes total sense. I mean, obviously,
right.
If you're planning your budgeting, that's a strict number. When you're investing, you could be all over the board.
Right, and the best investors, and just take a mutual fund that your listeners might own. That they have good years, they have bad years, they have a bad 2-year streak, and even if they have a great long-term record, it happens to everyone, except it didn't happen to Bernie Madoff.
So look at their returns is what I'm hearing. Like, look to see if there's any pattern that would be abnormal, and just look to see what their returns are like. And if they lose money, it's okay because it happens to everybody.
Actually, in this case, it would have been a good sign if he lost money sometimes. Right. The bad sign was that he never lost money, or said he never lost money. So, and there's a theme that runs through a bunch of what we'll talk about, which is when something seems too good to be true. Or when you're so lucky as to be getting this offer on the phone or via email that you didn't solicit, but someone said, I can triple your money in 6 months, and they found you. You didn't find them.
Right. So avoid being approached, from somebody that you didn't reach out to.
Right. It doesn't mean that everyone who approaches you is either a scammer or, in fact, someone can be a good opportunity, but be leery. So the two other things that were his assets were held within his firm, which is very unusual. Most hedge funds have a custodian. Mine is Goldman Sachs. So I can't steal the money. The money is at Goldman Sachs. So, but the money was with him. And the second thing is his accountant was this, one-man operation who basically didn't work for anyone else except Madoff, and it was not a legitimate firm. If you're thinking of investing in a hedge, find out who the accountant is. It's very easy. It's actually listed on the offering memorandum, and call them up. And look and Google them and find out, just to make sure. All of this is not a guarantee, but it would have kept you from investing with Madoff, and
right.
would keep you from most scams. The one I should say, and it's very rare, but it happened at Cowen and Lehman way back when. This is when Lehman existed. There was a broker who was draining client accounts and then sending out phony statements, generating them on the official letterhead of the brokerage firm. And they looked just like the regular statements that you used to get. So,
and with today's day and age, that would be an easy thing to do.
Right. That's the hardest one to police against. If someone is going to do that, because you can't, the firm doesn't know about the fraud. So the best way to find out is, if you ever ask for money, to be withdrawn, some stock to be sold, and send me a few $1,000s in cash. And if there's any resistance to that, in fact, whenever there is resistance for you asking for some of your money back, that is a huge red flag. And because it should just be automatic. You're the client, and when you want your money back.
Right. It'd be like going into the bank to make a withdrawal from your checking account and the teller giving you a hard time about wanting to take it out.
Imagine how you would feel if your bank did that.
Are you sure you want to take it out? Don't you want to just leave it here? You really shouldn't take your money out.
Right, we're paying especially good rates this week.
So I noticed you said earlier, look at the offering memorandum. Where would someone find that?
Well, it is something, it's called for a hedge fund, it's a private placement memorandum, and every potential investor has to get one. And now it's akin to a prospectus, and prospectuses are famous for being, for a new stock offering, famous for being unread, but this has all sorts of important information on the fee structure. It tells you who the custodian is, who the accountant is. It also tells you even what happens if the manager gets really sick or dies. What is? It takes a lot of different events into account, and And it also has a short biography of the manager and his or her investment experience.
And is this something you could ask them for? Like they would readily provide it if you asked them for the offering memorandum?
In fact, I just provide it automatically when I'm soliciting someone. It's part of the package I send them. That here's my material, and it's long ago I paid a law firm $40,000 to draft this agreement. So every time I use it, I feel like it's
you're getting your money worth.
That's right. So it's and you just have to do it, and it will answer a lot of the questions, and it will. And in fact, if it doesn't, if it's not professionally done,
right?
If it looks like.
So, Andy, just to recap on our first segment, we're going to look for regular consistencies, not the inconsistencies you would see in the market swings. Also, keep an eye out where the assets are held. Find out who the custodian is, and ask for that offering memorandum. Hold your thought. We're going to be back in just a minute. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk with Katrina Madewell and Andy Feinberg. Hey, Katrina Madewell here. Just wanted to make sure you know how to reach us on our off-air number. If you'd like to connect with myself or any of our guests, you can call us at 813-377-2775. Again, this is Katrina Madewell, host of Tampa Home Talk, and to connect with myself or any guests we have on air, just call or text at 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775.
You've heard this before. Interest rates are at all-time record lows. But if your interest rate is 4% or above, you owe it to yourself to call Silverton Mortgage Specialist. Silverton is a direct lender, and the best part about this is that the entire loan process is handled in-house. From application to close, we do it all in the same building, which means that our loans close fast and our clients know what's going on every step of the way. Our contact info is located on TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show. What makes Silverton different? Products. We offer VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional loans pricing. Best rates with the lowest closing costs. Process everything in-house. It's handled right here and not outsourced to anyone that no one can reach. This way we can avoid surprises. Our people are simply the best, and we know you'll agree. What will closing Silverton Mortgage Specialist mean to you? A smooth process, real home loan value, and personal attention from real professionals. Silverton Mortgage Specialists are here to serve you. Visit TampaHometalk.com under Radio Show for all of our contact details. NMLS 109600 is an equal housing lender and Florida and Georgia residential mortgage licensee.
Welcome back, and you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. Thanks so much for rejoining us today. And if you're just chiming in, today we're talking about avoiding investment and rip-off scams for when you're looking to put your hard-earned money in a place we want to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of. And our special guest today for this show is going to be Andrew Feinberg. He's a Kiplinger's columnist and CJA Partners hedge fund manager. We had some excellent tips for you in the first part of the show. If you missed any part of it, catch us on our Facebook page. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Just look for Tampa Home Talk. And we're going to be doing something new every week. We're going to be raffling off a $25 Amazon gift card just for listening to the show and participating in our quiz. So check us out at Tampa Home Talk and catch us here same time, same place every week. So we were talking when we left off, avoiding some of those Madoff style scams. And if you didn't catch it, definitely, listen to the podcast in its entirety. But you had a thought that we didn't quite get to before the break, Andy.
Well, the one thing I would say about, and it applies to hedge fund and any investment, if the strategy sounds too complicated, if you don't understand how it makes money or why it does well, that's a good reason not to do it. Often they make something sound complicated when it's a scam. They don't want to they figure if we buy this, we sell that, and then we do this arbitrage, and we come out with a 16% annual return all the time, which is sort of what Madoff said.
So if you're investing money for me, Andy, and let's say you're explaining this thing, and I just really don't understand it, somebody like you would take the time to probably re-explain it as many different times in as many different ways as you needed to for me to understand it. And if I didn't, you probably would recommend something else?
Right, and in my case, if you're familiar, anyone who's familiar with a mutual fund would understand, what I do. In general, I mean, it's I own 40 stocks, and I'm short, 5 stocks. So I'm mostly, long. That's the way I invest. So it's not very complicated, and even a fund that is more complicated, they should be able to show you very simply how it works. And the people who don't want you to understand something are often, scamming you.
Right.
That's one of their methods. And people are embarrassed about saying, I don't understand. We all like to, when someone's telling us something, think we understand it. And especially when it's your money, always keep asking questions until you do understand it.
Absolutely.
Until you're comfortable.
We tell people in the real estate world that the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So, I will explain it. Yeah, explain it to you every which way but sideways. But, when it's your biggest asset, your biggest liability, your biggest monthly payment, make sure you understand it. So, but, going back to this Madoff-style scams, is there any recourse for the people that actually got ripped off? Is there anything they can do to recoup some of their money?
Well, in this case, there was a lot, and many billions have been returned to investors. It's taken years and years, and
they liquidate things, right, of the person that scammed.
Well, yeah, but that only Madoff only had a small portion of what he stole. I mean, he had, tens of millions of dollars, but he stole billions of dollars.
Right.
And so they went and got the money from clients who had been winners. In fact, one of them, the one they got the most from, was a friend of Madoff who got literally one guy got billions of dollars, and he used to tell Madoff at the beginning of the year what he wanted his return to be for that year. And some years he picked 137%, and then since Madoff was stealing it he would just, Jeffrey Pickauer, he would just deliver the money. So all of this guy, the friend, died in a Florida, swimming pool of a heart attack, and they went after his wife, and I assume they said, we are going to ruin your life and try to put you in jail if you don't give us all the money we're asking for.
You cooperate or we're going to get it.
That's right. And she remained a rich person, but a much less rich person. They took most of
It's better than being in jail, right?
That's right. And it's... I don't know what she knew or didn't know, but I know. So this. But
they're regulated, right? I mean, these people are regulated by the SEC, aren't they?
Supposedly, yes. I mean, the SEC got fooled repeatedly, by Madoff. But yes, they are regulated. So, but one of the sad lessons of this is that it's better to invest in something that's regulated, but that by itself is not enough.
Right.
Because there have been a whole bunch of, a number of scams that were regulated by the SEC, and they either, in the case of Madoff, they did get a number of warnings from people in the business who said what this guy is claiming to do is impossible.
Right.
He must, and in fact, they got complaints from other hedge fund managers who said, I'd love to be doing that, but it can't be done.
Right. So, I mean, but when you talk about, a lot of these people, I mean, some of them are just salespeople, dressed up as an investment people in the world. And, what are some of the other things that also should raise a flag to try to determine the difference between a professional and actual salesperson investing money?
Well, that's a great question. The first thing is, how pushy is this salesperson? And if you think of, what you've seen in, a movie about a boiler room, for instance, where they're saying, you got to buy it now. Tomorrow's no good. It's going to double, tomorrow. It's going to triple by Tuesday. And there is so much pressure for you to act now. That is both a red flag, but it's also you should never act now. You always have to, especially if they initiated the contact, you have to see if they're regulated by anybody, see if the salesperson is licensed, see what their record is with both FINRA and the Better Business Bureau, because
check with where the Better Business Bureau and where else?
And FINRA, FINRA regulates brokers, and so you can see a broker's disciplinary record. FINRA doesn't do as good a job as it should, but it's
something.
Sort of all you have. But if it's high pressure sales, you don't want to do business with someone like that.
Right.
Basically, and
that's how I feel too. People push me for anything, and I'm very turned off by that.
That's right, and it's.
It could be something as simple like we wanted to redo our floors, and I got someone had told me about this guy, and I called him and then was just talking to him about it, and then the next thing I know, he was like being really pushy and telling me how he's the best and he doesn't negotiate his fees and he doesn't want to play around, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I'm going to pass.
Well, and in fact, the people push you the most and want you to act fastest. One is, of course, they want you to act now just to get the sale, but the other is that they have the most to lose if you actually think it through, and if you do research, and if you talk to some of your friends, because then they're going to tell you, don't do it.
Right.
And your research is probably going to tell you, don't do it, because, I've gotten calls like this, and I've actually written some columns about calls I've received, and they're amazing. I mean, these people are they're so relentless.
My suggestion would just be, get warm referrals. I'm always leery, about people that approach us about being on the show or trying to sell us something that weren't introduced to me by someone else, and especially if they're pushy, that definitely would do it for me.
Right. And it's, I've learned, some people are just pushy, but it's almost never that simple. It's
right.
almost always worse than that they're...
So look them up, check them out, look at the BBB, look at FINRA, check their demeanor. If they're high pressure, high sales, like boom, 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 boiler room, kind of put that red flag up. Is there anything else?
If they don't answer your questions clearly. I mean, if they seem to just be going back to a script, and if they're not giving your question the consideration it really deserves about the investment or about anything in life, and this could be from the sale of it could be a non-investment product, that they're because part of their shtick is that they don't want you to ask questions, that they just want to, railroad you into buying the product and have greed take over. And so that would be we left that one. Talk to your spouse if you have a spouse, and try to explain over dinner why this is such a wonderful thing, and see what she says or he says. That's like, and that's another thing, that they famously don't want you talking to your spouse. And in all the movies, they sort of make fun, if they're talking to a man, they make fun of him for saying, well, I want to talk to my wife about this, and that's seen as like unmanly and indecisive. Yeah. And he can.
If you want to be married, you better talk to your wife.
That's right. But if you want to impress this broker, you just don't talk to your wife.
You can ask my husband about that one. He made some bad investments into a pyramid Ponzi type scheme, and it came out later, like a year or so later, when the IRS wanted to know why we didn't pay taxes on it. I'm like, what is this?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing I left out about Madoff, and it applies to another kind of scam, which is some of the multi-level marketing companies, which are pyramid schemes. In a pyramid scheme, by definition, there are going to be some happy customers. Some of the early customers are going to make nice money, and just because they can give you the names of some customers who are very happy doesn't necessarily mean it's okay, because the structure of some of these frauds, means that the people at the top have enriched themselves.
Right. How does that vary from a Ponzi scheme?
Well, it is. Madoff was a Ponzi scheme. So, in that he did pay out money to some people, actually to lots of people. He paid out money to the older investors with money from the new investors. So
yeah.
It was a classic Ponzi scheme.
You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. Joining us today is Andy Feinberg, Kiplinger columnist, CJA Partners, and hedge fund manager. We're talking about investment scams you can avoid and some of the ripoffs. Andy, hang tight. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about affinity fraud. Back in a minute.
Curious what your Tampa home is worth? Here's an easy way to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market. Text the word value to 813-377-2775 for a free report on Tampa house prices. We'll send you a free report with up-to-the-minute statistics based on all homes for sale sold in your neighborhood over the last 6 months in all price ranges. To get your free report on Tampa Bay house prices, just call or text the word value to 813-377-2775.
You're buying a house. Congratulations. So while you're worrying about the paperwork, leave the moving part to us. We're Woody & Sons Moving Company, a Florida licensed and insured mover, and we offer same-day written estimates. Plus, no sneaky mileage, stairs, or additional stop fees. All we ask is that you check out our great ratings on Google and Angie's List, then go to woodyandsons.com to learn more. Whether you need a full-service pack and move or some extra hands, at Woody & Sons Moving Company, we move you.
Aaron Davis here, owner of Hillsborough Title, serving all of Tampa Bay. Our service, strength, and knowledge make us different. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. If it's your first time catching us this week, we'll be here same time, same place every week. And if you missed any part of our show, definitely catch it in its entirety. Just look for us at Tampa Home Talk. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Catch us on tampahometalk.com. Every week, we're going to be raffling a $25 Amazon gift card just for listening to the show. And if you could tell us some facts and some really simple little questions that you can get even by looking at Tampa Home Talk, we're going to enter you into a drawing to give you $25 to Amazon. So Andy Feinberg is with me. He is with CJA Partners, hedge fund manager, and also columnist for Kiplinger. You talk about a lot of this stuff over the years and write columns on it. And before the break, we were talking about, pyramid schemes. And I think we left off getting ready to dive into a Ponzi scheme and what that is and how they differ. So if you could chime in on how people could see the red flags for a Ponzi scheme too. I'm sure the person listening would love to hear about that.
Well, in both cases, be wary of. It's always good in theory to talk to satisfied customers, whatever the service is or whatever the product is. But in the case of either a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme, they're
going to have those.
Yeah, they're going to have those, and it doesn't mean anything. It has no bearing on whether you'll be a satisfied customer or not. So, the pyramid scheme, which is can be exactly the same or it can be different. The case of Herbalife, which is a very controversial company right now. You've got distributors underneath you, and you're getting a piece of their action. So the more people you recruit, the more money you make.
There's so many of these MLM, multi-level marketing, home business kind of things.
Right, and unfortunately, I should say first, even the ones that are not corrupt at all, it can be a very difficult way to make money. They are, the vast majority of people do not make money. I mean...
Right. I guess the one thing is, in some of those cases, at least maybe you'll have some product, right, that might actually do something.
Oh, sure. I mean,
where Ponzi scheme, you're not going to have anything.
Amway has products that, absolutely, work. And even some, the Herbalife products work. I think some of them are too expensive. But
is Amway even around anymore?
I think so. Well,
I don't know.
I never encountered them, but they certainly the heirs of the founders are very rich, very rich people.
It's funny.
Founders became billionaires. But people think, well, they'll get their friends and they'll get some of their family, and they do, but after that it becomes difficult. And the friends and family, if they're not selling, if it's not working for them, they drop out. And
right.
So the person who said, well, gee, I had 20 people I brought in, but now I have 6, and I'm not selling that much.
Mm-hmm.
So
but the Ponzi schemes, for example, to use this scenario, like I told you about, my husband pulled money out of a retirement account to invest it with this guy, right, that was going to make all this money. He talked all these people at the city into investing money, and then he started showing some of them returns, like you said. And then all of a sudden, this guy's in jail for a Ponzi scheme.
Oh, well, it's the...
how could someone... What signs would they see for
what
someone?
Signs would they see? Well, it's I guess on the multi-level marketing, you could read up on the product and just see what your friends and family think of the product itself. Forget that it's a business opportunity for you. And in many of the cases, Amway was selling products that were somewhat similar to products that already existed, but that didn't stop them from being a success. And Herbalife actually has become a financial success, and we can debate how good a company it is or isn't. So, I mean, one, would there be actual demand for the product? Is there something ideally different about the product that is good, but that's also believable? And this,
right.
I was going to talk later. I'll talk that one of the ways people get ripped off is these health products that make just extraordinary claims for weight loss, for all your wrinkles go away, and just fountain of youth, and just
if it sounds too good to be true, too good to be true, it probably is.
That's right, and there is with those, don't buy them until you talk to your doctor about it.
Right.
Heard of this? Is there any reason to believe that this? Because some things do help with wrinkles, and some things can help with weight loss. They're not miracles, but they can be helpful. But they're
it's no fountain of youth. With the Ponzi scheme, though, was thinking about what you said earlier, and it wasn't like a product that they purchased. And from what and I was never involved in the conversations, which ties back into what you said earlier. If they don't want the spouses involved, and you're doing this kind of secret hush hush for whatever reason, because they've talked you into it, it's probably a red flag. And then, we're going to make you all this money.
If you're doing it in secret from your spouse and your friends, that is not a good sign. But they'll... Well, I would also ask, in the case of a multi-level marketing, ask for, and you may not get it, but lots of different names, not just the people at the top of the multi-level marketing pyramid. But
what would a lot be? 5 or 10? Ask about some new people that came in?
That, and just... one, I would read up on multi-level marketing companies, and I think what would distress most people is not the frauds as much as just the low income per hours worked, and also sometimes the high initial investment that you may have to buy $3,000 worth of product.
Now, I know we were also going to talk about affinity frauds. Can you talk about what that is and how that ties into any of this?
It is. Affinity fraud is one of the most insidious kinds of fraud because affinity, it means that the salesperson is either a member of your church, or they were in the Marine Corps as you were, or something, some group that means a lot to you, or they're saying that they are, and they're not actually. So what this does is it's just human nature. If someone's part of your church,
right,
you trust them more, and you also think they would never betray a fellow worshiper.
Right.
I mean, and who would do that? Well, there are people absolutely who would do that. And in fact, that's the way they work. And
it's in those little social circles, right?
Right. And some of the biggest frauds have been, someone who was in the congregation and who was stealing from, they get a critical mass of other people at the church, and then they get out of Dodge.
Yeah, that can be so scary.
And so, if this ever happens to you, it doesn't mean that not everyone who's offering you something, whom you know from a church or military organization or something,
probably look them up like you would anybody.
Well, that's right, and also understand that you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt that you might not give someone else, and try not to. Just approach it the same way you would anything else, and don't let them use the affinity card to soften you up.
Good tip.
It's just enough. And so much of this, unfortunately, with scams, these are people who learn how to prey on human nature.
Right.
And we're not immune from reacting a certain way to, if there's someone we know they have a leg up in selling something to us. We just have to apply the same critical thinking to every situation.
Right.
And
I know we were talking also about, you were saying how the FBI warns about some of these advanced payment scams for different things.
Right. Their advanced payment covers a number of different scams. One, it can be for a loan that, but we won't give you the loan until you send us the $3,000 for the fees, and that's not the way lenders usually work. I mean, it's usually the mortgage is it comes, the points are packaged with it.
Yeah, you're either lending the money or you're not.
That's right, exactly, and that's the way it is everywhere, unless someone's trying to steal from you. And another thing that's like the advance payment is we have a free gift for you. We've all gotten called. I mean, I think once a week I get a call telling me I have a free cruise to the Bahamas.
You won.
I won.
You've won.
The woman is always so happy for me.
She's more happy than you are.
Same woman. So,
you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. We've got Andy Feinberg here with us with CJA Partners, hedge fund manager, Kiplinger's columnist. And when we come back in a minute, we're going to continue with some of these advanced payment scams. And we're going to also tell you about the grandma scam. So if you got a grandma or you know a grandma, stick around because you won't want to miss the last part of the show. Back in a minute.
Ask me about an inside secret to save several hundreds of dollars on your annual homeowner's insurance premium. Text the word WIND, W-I-N-D, to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775.
Aaron Davis here, owner of Hillsborough Title, serving all of Tampa Bay. Our service strength and knowledge make us different. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
Ask me about an inside secret to save several hundreds of dollars on your annual homeowner's insurance premium. Text the word WIND, W-I-N-D, to 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775.
Welcome back, and you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. We have our special guest today, Andy Feinberg. He is with CJA Partners Hedge Fund Manager, also columnist for Kiplinger's, talking all about frauds and investment scams and ripoffs and how you can avoid these people that try to harm you and take your money, and some tips and tricks. So if you've missed any part of today's show, I'm going to highly encourage you listen to the podcast in its entirety, and you can catch us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Tampa Home Talk, and all of our shows are on tampahometalk.com. And don't forget to register and comment, like, or ask questions about our show, or let us know what your favorite part was, and we're going to enter you into a $25 drawing for an Amazon gift card every week. So where we left off, we were talking about some of these advanced payment scams, and we were talking about, hey, you have a free gift, or I'm going to give you a loan, but I need X amount for fees first. And those are certainly some things that should raise your red flag radar. Is there anything else that you see by way of advanced payment scams, Andy?
Well, just one last thing on the gift part. They may ask you to just send a small amount of money, or they'll just charge it to your credit card. Sometimes those are attempts to get at your credit card information, that they may be identity theft scams masquerading as with a free gift on top.
Fantastic point.
And they also, it may come out that, well, it's not that they want to sell you something so you can get this free gift. That, well, it is free, but don't you want this vacuum cleaner?
Yeah.
For $400.
It is free, but
right.
I'm going to erase everything I just said, because this is what I really mean.
Yeah. So but you had mentioned that, the grandma scam, which I just learned about, and it's they somehow find out some information on your family, and they call you and say your grandson or granddaughter is in Turkey or in some foreign land, and they're in a lot of trouble, and they need money immediately to get them out of trouble. And again, human nature, everyone has the same reaction. I want to get my beloved grandchild out of trouble. Except the first thing you should say is, could you put my beloved grandchild on the line, please?
Yeah.
So, and that alone will
usually hang up.
Yeah, they'll hang up because they're not. You've got them, and they. But obviously, people wouldn't try this if it didn't work sometimes, and so some people send the money without any proof that the grandchild is even in the country.
So you're going to call them out on it, call bull, you know what?
Right. And so it's one thing that happens with that scam, and it can happen with a lot of others, they can be very good, these con artists, at giving all these details and saying, well, he was in this jail, and here's the address of the jail in Istanbul, and or whatever, and layer and layer of detail. And you say, like, well, how could they know so much detail if it weren't true? Well, they're making it all.
Yeah, or they're finding stuff off the grandkids' social feeds, right? Like on Twitter, on Facebook.
That's right. Well, that's actually, that's going to lead to a whole new kind of, as people share parts of their lives broadly that they didn't used to share.
Right.
People can find out, and they can know exactly where in the world someone is on that day because they put it on Facebook.
Right. We tell people, if you're going to be traveling or going on vacation, you want to post all those wonderful pictures for your family and friends to see. Totally cool, but don't do it when you're gone, and don't announce you're going to be gone. Do it when you get back. It's just an invitation for somebody to, steal from you, rob your house while you're gone.
Right. And one of the... It's an old scam, and it's a version on an even older scam, and it's still going, the Nigerian scam where someone says, I was a big official in the Nigerian government, and...
Surely people don't fall for that one anymore, do they?
They still do, and I'll just use this as an analogy, and and I've got $25 million, and I need a bank account to put it in, I need a partner.
Yeah, show me the money.
Right. And there are all these, whenever you have to put up, you have a great deal. I mean, this is an amazing windfall, except it requires a $5,000 or X amount of money from you in order. It's just, remember the Nigerian. I mean, it's a scam. That it's this good faith money. That's not the way.
Right. One of the things you touched on, I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk about it, was how you're seeing some people legally get ripped off, or I guess more so tricked into different things.
Right. And I think it would start with like the healthcare products, which aren't illegal, but that doesn't mean they do any good. One of the things you see all the time is, call up for a free credit report. And not to pick on freecreditreport.com, but they'll give you a free credit report, and then what they really want to do with you is charge you $21.95 a month.
They want to sell you the score, then they want to sell you your subscription.
That's right. And it is legitimate, but it's not free, and it's not what you expected, and
They're
what everyone
you.
should. Right. There is a website called Annual creditreport.com, which is run by the Federal Trade Commission, which is totally legitimate, and
right.
There you can get, every year you can get a free credit report, and they don't want to sell you monitoring
a real
services.
copy. And you can, I think some of these places that try to charge you the annual fees, for these credit report things, they're trying to say, oh, let's protect you against identity theft and all this stuff. Well, you can get alerts on your credit file, with the credit companies. You just have to inquire about it, because we've had people that, we're in the middle of selling them a property and they're getting a mortgage, and they have to literally unlock their credit so that it can be pulled.
Well, on that point, everyone should check their credit, once a year.
At least,
right? And I can see, because strange stuff migrates there, and also things you thought would have been deleted because you asked that they be deleted. They were wrong, and they said they would delete them. They're better than they used to be, but they're not always real swift, and the things sometimes persist for longer than you might expect. And if in your business, people get some nasty surprises right when they're going to buy their dream house.
One of the things that we've seen, because we're here in Florida, so it's considered, unfortunately, now a high fraud market. So they're requiring all the homeowners and the buyers to actually sign what they call a 4506T, which is a request for tax transcripts from the IRS. So they want to verify that what you gave them is the same as you supplied with the IRS. And the ridiculous part about it is, like, sometimes, you may have your tax returns filed, and then maybe the accountant made an adjustment to it before it actually got filed, because you reminded them about something you didn't tell them initially, and that can cause you a hiccup. But I've seen clients that have actually had people in other states file a false tax returns and swipe their refund. And that is crazy when that happens. Like, talk about big old monkey wrench. Like, that's going to throw everything back for a while. And it's crazy. You would think, who the heck would want to mess with the IRS and file a fraudulent tax return to get a refund? But it happens.
No, it's true.
And what we're seeing, and what I've been told, is these scammers are actually hacking into the employer's database, and it's affecting several people at the same location, like several people that work at that same employer.
Well, and this gets on to, with hackers' abilities, and hackers who are working for the wrong side of the law, that I understand why people. I have one friend who just subscribed to LifeLock, truly for peace of mind, and she didn't care how much it costs. And I'm not saying LifeLock's good or bad, but it was just, she needed to at least believe that she was going to find out immediately if something happened.
Right.
something, and that it was.
It's out there. We see crazy stuff. I've had properties that I have listed for sale. They're my listing, and some of these scammers will actually put the property on Craigslist for rent, especially if it's empty and they know that. And the problem is, they're trying to intercept money for a property that's not even for rent, and signing bogus leases, getting people. They'll say, "Oh, I'm out of work. I'm in a different state right now. You need to Western Union me the money or wire it to me." And then the problem is, when they go to file a report, they can't do anything with the local authorities. It becomes an FBI matter because the crime was committed in another state. It's insane, the stuff we see. But I had a guy, the first time I had ever encountered this, my client was actually in Ireland, and we were helping them, just get the property rented. And these other people, these scammers in Texas, had actually posted it for rent on Craigslist. And there was someone that was looking, that was in the neighborhood, and the family member was actually a retired New York City police officer, and he was smart enough to ask questions that kind of raised some red flags. And then he started looking online and saw that I was an actual agent. I was a realtor, and we're bound by a certain code of ethics. So usually most of the realtors that I run in circles with, they're there to give you good information. So when he told me about it, we immediately filed a complaint with the FBI and let the people know what was going on and posted that. But it happens. I mean, we see crazy stuff that these people get so creative with. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, just want to make sure we don't run out of time on this too, and I know we didn't really talk about this, but what about like penny stocks? You know how people are always offering these startup, new IPO, so new initial public offering, meaning they're just getting ready to be traded or sold or whatever. You have any tips on that?
Well, let's start with the legitimate IPOs, and they historically they have done worse than the average stock, even though you've got your Google and Apple and Microsoft and all these great companies that were once IPOs. It is, plus the ones that are people are excited about, often double on the first day and then come back. It just happened very recently. This company called Etsy, which is does the crafts online and went public last month. And my daughter, buys on Etsy, so she was interested, and it doubled on its first trade. And
I'm sure
sunk like a rock ever since. It's now down 40 some odd % from what you could have traded could have bought it on that first day.
And you don't think maybe something like that would come back, like a legitimate place that people are familiar with?
It could. I mean, it's and like Facebook, for example, went up a lot on its first day and then crashed back. Except it has done fabulously.
My thinking would be buy it on the crash. Like, let it go up, let it sink like a rock, and get in.
Well, it's usually a bad idea to buy on the euphoria of the first day. There is a company called David's Tea, which is Canadian, and it has 4 stores in New York. And they're very good stores, and we shop there all the time. They're going public soon, and I've read their offering information. And my feeling is, I'd like to buy it, but it all depends what the price is.
Right.
And there's a price I'll pay, and
there's a price you won't.
I won't pay. And I think it's a good concept. I think they have good chance for expansion. But back to what you were asking, penny stocks are totally different. They attract fraudsters almost by definition, and they do it because if a stock's at 30 cents. All it has to do is go to $1 and you've tripled your money.
Right.
And they can say that to people, and often one of the problems is that the bid-ask spread can be enormous, so that it might cost you 30 cents to buy, but you could only sell it for 20 cents. It's 20 cents to sell, 30 cents to buy, and that's just an enormous difference.
And I know you write so much, Andy, on Kiplinger's. Maybe you can have this as an article in the future, and I'd love to link it on Tampa Home Talk. I could so talk to you for another hour. I really appreciate your time today. Unfortunately, we're at the top of the hour, and we just have to break. But any closing thoughts? I'm happy to post it at Tampa Home Talk on Facebook and Twitter.
One thing I didn't get to say very quick is that with financial planners who are often good people, use fee-only planners. They will cost you less, and they have no conflict of interest, and they'll probably do a better job of getting you what you want.
Thank you, Andy. We got to go. This week we're out. Hey, Katrina Madewell here. Just wanted to make sure you know how to reach us on our off-air number. If you'd like to connect with myself or any of our guests, you can call us at 813-377-2775. Again, this is Katrina Madewell, host of Tampa Home Talk, and to connect with myself or any guests we have on air, just call or text at 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775.